Welcome to the Forecast by Bambuser, your guide to the future of retail, tech, and innovation. We bring you insights from the world's frontrunners so you can stay ahead of the curve and win big. Let's go. Today, we'll be hearing from one of the top performers in video commerce globally, Matas Group. They are the leading beauty retailer in the Nordics and one of the most digital-oriented retailers in the world. They were true early adopters of video commerce and they launched their live shopping in March 2020. Since then, they have expanded on their concept and they're currently streaming 5 times a week. Today, I'm at Matas HQ in Denmark. I am sitting down with Michelle Weiss, head of SoMe, influencers, and content at Matas, and we will deep dive into their strategies behind their success, how they keep innovating, and of course have a look into the future of what beauty retail and video commerce might look like. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I've been so excited to sit down with you guys.
Me too.
We're both Danish girls, so it feels a little strange having a conversation in English, but I mean, we have so much to share. Because, you know, Bambuser, we are continuously impressed with how you guys run Matas Live and how you keep innovating on the media offering. You were some of the true early adopters of this technology. Could you tell me a little bit about how you guys started and some of the pivots that you did to the concept really early on?
Of course. Well, you were here when we started it in 2020, so it feels a bit funny to sit here to talk to you about it today. But we started it just, after COVID came, and it was like a hectical period of time. But just 2 weeks after reaching out to Bambuser, we launched this on matas.dk. And basically, we started with this kind of small setup. And it's different, of course, from where we are today. But we had different hosts. You were one of them to begin with. And then we just scaled it just through time. And we ended up with this very good format with the celebrities, with these hosts that we also developed and educated to be on screen and so on. So a lot of things have happened during this time. And I think that to begin with, we thought, okay, can we really connect with the consumers, with the customers through a screen? But it actually turned out to be like a very good way of connecting with people because you have this feeling that we are one-to-one, even though we are one-to-many and it's through a screen. So we really connected with the audience during this time where you couldn't go out and meet people, in 2020. It was an odd time for all of us, yeah.
And I know the concept started, as you said, really simply. You were shooting from a small studio, and now you have this big, beautiful one that we're sitting in today, which also is a meeting room, of course, by the way. But how did you initially learn that, it's maybe not the best idea to have a host on screen alone? Because I know that generally your hosts they dual host, right? So they always come in pairs. How did you learn that was usually better performing with your audience?
I think the dynamic when there's 2 people on the screen is very, very good. But also one of the things that we are known for in Matas is that we give good advice. So often we would have a host, a really good educated host like yourself, to invite in people who had something, to say, or something, some kind of expert knowledge within a field. So we just experienced that the dynamic would be very good with 2 on screen. So that's when we started, inviting celebrities and different experts within different fields. And we even invited in brands to talk about their different products and so on. So we learned that it's a very good way of being live is to have this, also dialogue between 2 people. And it kind of invites people in as well, yeah.
That's very, very interesting, and I will be deep diving into more about the celebrity thing and how you work with brands later in today's interviews. But I would like to talk to you a little bit about how you built the media offering itself, because your channel is not just product sales, it's very much education and entertainment. What does your approach to content creation look like?
Well, first of all, I think it's true what you say that our media is not just, like a way of selling, but it's also a community, and it's a quite good one because we can connect with people quite easily through the screen. So basically, what we tend to do is that we look to make evergreen content. So we look to make content that would perform even after being live. So our ultimate purpose is to create value, just also long tail value, evergreen value. So we will build the format and the live shows based on data, for instance, and look into what's performing within, for instance, skincare, makeup, and so on, so that we will make sure that what we're talking about is actually inspiring and is actually relevant to the customers.
All right, so you have quite a data-driven content process, it seems. And that those trends, that data, where do you find it? Is it within your own ecosystem, or is it on the internet in general? What's trending on social? Yeah. Where do you look?
Well, it's actually both. So we have, for instance, Google, which is quite good, obviously, but also now we see like an evolving landscape on SoMe. So we also look into what's trending on TikTok, which is also a search engine itself, what's trending on Instagram and so on. So, but mostly we look into the data from Google to see, okay, what's performing within skincare. So for instance, when we are in April, a lot of people will search on, okay, how do I protect my skin against the sun? And then we do this kind of template where we make sure to answer the questions that our customers will have regarding a specific topic. So that could be skincare, makeup, mascara even. So we make sure in the way that we bring these shows to life that we actually answer relevant questions.
Mm-hmm. And you talked a lot about you have an evergreen approach to content with long tail effects and everything. So I guess it's more the views come in almost cycles for you guys. How, do you ever go back and update old content, or do you simply push content that you maybe did for a sunny season last year?
Sometimes we do that. And also it's important to say that we try to activate it within our ecosystem. So when a live show is finished, we'll make sure to publish it on a PDP, a product page. We'll make sure to incorporate it in a relevant email, for instance, about sun, if it's a sunscreen or a skincare that is relevant within this field. And we try to push it on matas.dk in the app. We, of course, optimize it in regards to SEO and so on. So we activate the whole ecosystem around Matas when we do content. So sometimes we create new content, and sometimes we go back and see, okay, what do we have in this amazing catalog that we have built now? And how can we reuse content and maybe bite-sized content and make it relevant for the different medias?
I love that. That is so smart, and also I guess a way of leaning out the work so you don't have to invent the wheel
exactly.
every time. So I want to talk to you a little bit about your hosts. You rotate quite a few hosts on screen, I have noticed. What have you learned from using different people on screen, and what does your casting process look like?
Yeah. So this is a very important topic, I think, because being a host is such a, difficult job, but also you have the opportunity to connect with our customers. And I really like the idea to have diversity within this host cast that we have. So we think a lot about, okay, which host is the most relevant one to this specific topic. So nothing is random, it's actually quite planned. Okay, this host would be amazing to host this kind of show with this kind of guest or this kind of celebrity. So we always think about, okay, which host would be the best fit for this specific topic. And our cast will look, our cast process, is that what you call it?
Yeah, casting process.
Process is that we obviously look into, okay, how's your energy on screen, but it's also so important that you have your personality with you, because we don't want you to be neutral necessarily. We want you to bring in your personality, because our customers will, make a relationship based on your personality, so you will connect on that as well. So it's very important for us that our hosts will be, themselves when they're on screen, actually.
Amazing. And do you see how the audience connects with certain hosts and maybe almost feel like they've developed a relationship?
Yeah. Even sometimes they will text them on Instagram before or after, and they always text in the chat on Bambuser. They will say, oh, nice to see you tonight. How was your vacation, for instance, or happy birthday, and so on. So it's actually, this nice community we've built with every single hosts that we have, actually.
That is so sweet, and I love to hear about the positivity, which is not always a given, like in the digital landscape. I mean, that's amazing.
It's a privilege, or what you say? A privilege.
A privilege.
A privilege to have this community around our shows.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about your success, because we know that you have the star host, you are integrating very, very smartly in relevant touch points across your ecosystem. But what are some of the less obvious areas that has contributed to Meta's Live success?
I think actually that we're not afraid of talking about, for instance, let's say sex toys, because we have this category at Matas as well. And we find that these shows are the best performing shows actually, because it's the shows, you know, that will give you some value, because you cannot necessarily go down to a store and ask which product should I choose. So it's very important for us that we actually have a kind of broad perspective when we create shows and when we think about, okay, what should we plan for this week and this month and so on. So I think our way of thinking this format into different categories is quite important, and also is something that makes us special in some way, because we're not afraid of talking about anything. And also we have this experts within Matas. For instance, we have what you call a sexologist in-house actually, and we have also different kind of experts, you know, within midwives, for instance. We have a midwife also in our expert panel as well. So we make sure always to have something important to say and something which is valuable towards the customers.
All right. So they actually get something super unique by coming to you guys. Oh, that's extremely interesting. I would also like to hear a little more about how you have sort of integrated the Matas Live project into the organization and how you work with the other departments. What does that look like?
Well, honestly, it's kind of a privilege to work with the live streaming at Matas, because we have this broad organizational buy-in from the entire organization. So of course we have to work quite closely with the different departments, because we want to activate our content throughout the different channels. But for instance, the e-commerce team, they will find that our content is very valuable to the customer journey on matas.dk. So we'll work closely with them to activate it where it's relevant for the customers in their kind of journey on the website. And the same goes for the app, the same goes for the email, and so on and so forth. So it's a privilege to work with the content in Matas.
Amazing. So the other departments can see a value in this as well. That's super cool. And the reason why I was sort of fishing for this answer is because we do get a lot of questions from our clients at Bambuser. How do we work with other departments? Who should be involved in this project? And I just look to you guys as sort of the poster child of how to integrate a video commerce initiative within a big organization, because it is way more important than you would initially think that the rest of the organization will support. It's everything from having the right placements on the website to having procurement help out with securing products, integrating with marketing and the campaigns that are coming up. So yeah, that's why I was asking you this question, because I know you guys do it so well.
It's a big ecosystem, you know. Yeah.
It really is. It really is. And building on that, actually, and the early learnings and the key areas to your success, I'd like to talk to you about how you turned Matas Live into a multi-revenue stream sales channel, because you don't just make money from the product sales. You have actually also offered airtime on Matas Live as a part of your retail media packages. Could you talk to me about that?
Yeah. So Matas Live is quite a popular retail media as well, because I think a lot of the different brands that we work with find it quite valuable that we have all these different kind of customers that will tune into our live show every single Monday and Tuesday evening, and they will feel like they're connecting directly with the different customers. And also when we look into the numbers, we'll see that we have a very, you know, nice, viewing time.
What's your view time these days?
I think it's 15 minutes or something.
Wow.
The average viewing time is like 15 minutes. And when you, for instance, scroll on social media, your time span is like, you know, you never dive into anything.
No.
But actually, we managed to connect with our audience, and we managed to keep them interested for 15 minutes. It's so unique. Yeah. And I think that the different, you know, suppliers find that very unique as well. Because in today's world, it's so difficult to get, you know, especially the young customers' attention. But we actually managed to do so through Matas Live. So I think that's one thing that makes it quite interesting. And also, we build on on these different formats. For instance, the data approach is very important as well. And they find it very important that we tap into trends, because when we do so, then we'll make sure that it's evergreen as well, because we know that every single time we come to April, the sun will shine and people will ask, okay, which kind of day cream should I use, which kind of sunscreen, and so on. So we know when to activate content which will make the best, foundation to build on a live show.
Interesting. And I've heard that you offer different packages, so different tiers of airtime. What do they look like?
Well, we have, I think we call it an ownership. I think we did that as well when you were here with us. And also we have the integration model. So it's very important for us, regardless which package they buy into, that it's native and authentic. So if it's an ownership, we will recommend the different brands to tap into something that is relevant just now. So basically we work with them on developing, the product, the final show. But we offer three different packages now. The ownership, the integration show, but also we have a show which is based on offers. So, like great offers from this period of time. So, and that's it works quite well as well.
That's so cool. So looking at your content library, it's clear that you have a lot of prominent guests join the show. And the viewers, on your website, they even have the option to filter on celebrities. How do you work with celebrities, and what have you done to attract them?
Well, often, when a brand buy into our media as part of this retail media thing that we just spoke about, they will often say, okay, we have a very nice ambassador that we can bring on screen. And obviously we think that's very nice, because it brings value to the format as well, that we can actually attract celebrities. And I think being a brand as Matas actually is kind of, like a privilege, because people want to work with Matas, but also I think that they see that our shows are quite, popular, and that we tend to activate it throughout the ecosystem and bite-size the content. So I think that they get a lot out of it, to be honest. And also I think maybe the most important thing is that we will always make sure that it adds value to the customers. So the most important thing is that the customers that will tune into the live show will go from the live show and think, oh, I learned something new. So that's our approach, regardless if it's a celebrity, an expert, or any other person that will go live.
So it's very customer-centric, everything you do. That is super, super cool. And I love how you also amplify the celebrities themselves, so they see like a meaning with coming on the show and interacting with the audience. That's really, really cool. Do you see any difference in the popularity of the shows with celebrity guests and influencers versus your own trained host?
I think it's so important to have diversity in, in the program. But actually what's the most well-performing thing is when we bring on an expert. That could be a celebrity that's an expert, but the expert advice is, like the center of our format. So actually when, for instance, we have our own Sita, you know her, and when we bring her on, she has this very deep knowledge of different, skincare, makeup, and even nails. And the advice that she gives is just like, I get every single time I want to buy the products that she's talking about, because it's like, oh my goodness, I need to own this myself.
My skin could use that, please.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
All right, interesting. So regardless of who you're casting, it's all about having the right fit with the topic of the day and finding someone who's actually trustworthy. I love those takeaways. I know you are super data driven, and I remember that from also working here a few years ago. That was your whole thing, and I would love to talk to you a little bit about that. So how do you work with data when you're determining the success of the programs, and in which direction to sort of tweak them?
Well, first of all, we'll look into, we have the cycle of the year. So we have January, February, and so on and so forth. And then we'll look into, okay, which kind of different keywords are performing in the different months, so that we know, okay, what are the key programs that we need to make in the different months, basically. And then we'll take a step deeper into, okay, which kind of questions will the users ask on Google, for instance, so that we know when it comes to a mascara, for instance, we know that, okay, the customers will ask, okay, why should I choose a mascara that is waterproof? Why should I use a mascara with a, what do you say, a certain kind of brush, for instance? And we'll just, dive completely into what's the need of the customers when they're searching within a different, a specific field, I'd say. Yeah.
All right, interesting. And if you are, because I know you have a few different content formats. So the one, ask the expert, when you're talking about great offers, new products. Have you ever tweaked those to think about, oh, maybe we need actually to make this particular one shorter, or this one should be published at a different time? Do you ever look into that?
We're actually working on that at the moment as well, because we did a whole analysis within, that like the famous Gen Z audience. That is a very, interesting audience, and a lot of them said that they loved Meta's Live, but it was too long. It was too long. Again, back to the attention span.
Yeah.
So actually,
or lack thereof.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So to begin with, we were actually like, okay, it doesn't matter if it's like 30 minutes or 60 minutes, because we just need to give all the value that we actually can, because we can bite-size it afterwards. But the young customers, if we want to really address them and their kind of needs and pain points and so on, we need to make a format that is created, to look into, what they need. So yes, we are looking at that as well.
That's interesting that you design content formats for different target groups.
Yeah, and we will definitely look more into that in the future, also trying to maybe multi-stream on Instagram or TikTok or something, trying to, get a broader, perspective on the entire ecosystem.
Yeah, now you're touching on that yourself. I know you've already been going live on Facebook.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about this before the interview, before the camera started rolling. What would you say has been your learnings from going live on social versus going live on metas.dk in your own ecosystem?
Yeah, I think one thing that makes our media quite unique is that we don't necessarily have to have great offers or competitions or something like that, because we give the good advice and we will eventually sell the products. So I think that on Facebook, the customers or the users on Facebook, they're like, okay, why is it not minus 70% off? I think there's a whole world around being live on Facebook and different connotations and associations as well. So, but when we go live on metas.dk, we don't necessarily have to have great offers. We just have to have great advice. So I think that, on Facebook it's quite difficult, because it's also kind of like a filled ocean in some way. And we need to offer, these big competitions, great offers and so on, and we really like to sell products at full price. So I think that functions, quite well on metas.dk, but also it's quite easy for us after a show to bite-size the content and activate it, because the functionality behind the product Bambuser makes it possible to bite-size and to activate.
Do you see a world where those two types of content could coexist, where you have like your core offering on your website, and then if you have, for example, let's say leftover stock that you need to shift, would that then be a show for Facebook, or do you think that you could replicate the known and loved format of Metas Live directly to Facebook?
I don't think that that's the right way to do it, actually. I think that we should, as you say, try to create formats for the different media. And just, acknowledge that something will work on metas.dk, something will work on Facebook and Instagram and even TikTok, because that's a whole different media, So I think that we have to create formats, based on which kind of media we want to put the format into.
I'm going to come back to you when you guys have worked more with our social selling feature, and then I'm going to do another interview on how that went. You recently decided to do lunch lives, now talking about the different formats that you guys create, and they are shorter shows that you host during lunch break. why did you decide to do that? And also, do you see any limits on how often you can go live? Because that's actually a question that we get quite often at Bambuser with our clients being afraid to go live too often. Do you think that's a thing?
Well, first of all, I spoke to a colleague at Kix, because Meta, they are now a part of Meta's group, as you probably know. And she said that they were doing these shorter formats during lunch break, and we thought, okay, let's try that as well. And then I spoke to another colleague of mine, who's in charge of our, digital product team. She's in charge of this whole team with the hairdressers and so on and so forth. And then we spoke about, okay, why not use them a lot more on screen, because they have a lot of great advice to offer. So why not just test it? And also with a format like this, you can be a lot more day-to-day, in your planning, because the lives that we are hosting at the evenings, they are like, maybe we plan them one month in advance. But these lunch shows make it possible for us to just tap into a trend tomorrow in the lunch break, during the lunch break. And also I think this shorter format is quite good, also for the younger customers, but also it's not that we expect a lot of people will sit down in their lunch break, eating, watching Matas Live, even though we dream about that. But we can actually use this content afterwards, like an evergreen approach again. So we can activate it, throughout the entire ecosystem, and it works quite well, both when we are live, but especially after being live.
All right, that's very, very interesting. So it's more maybe more authentic in a way that it's more reactive and less planned out. And I when you have good hosts, that's what you can do. If you are, my personal philosophy is if you're very new in the live shopping space or as a host, I would always overplan rather than underplan. But because you guys have done it for so long, I imagine that like the sales are still absolutely amazing because you just know how to do it.
Yeah, and also they're used to, they're sitting in the chat. They are also, doing different kind of advice on different digital channels. So they know the best, within skincare and makeup. So they're just doing their job. They're just doing it on screen.
Do they help plan the content, or does that happen centrally from the project management team?
That's a mixture actually, but also we make sure always to tap into trends. Okay. So that's just the main thing, to tap into, relevant content or relevant topics.
All right. And what about the question of frequency? Do you think you can go live? Is there a limit to how often you can go live?
I think I have to get back to you on that, because that's also what we're testing at the moment. But actually what's quite interesting to see is that we haven't, decreased the numbers of monthly viewers. We have, increased it. So I don't think that it's that, I don't think that there's this natural limit in that way. I just think that it's very important that we make sure to use the content, because we wouldn't go live just to go live. We would go live if we have something very important, relevant to say that we also can use afterwards.
Okay. So far, as long as it's relevant, more is more. That's what I hear you say. Okay. So you developed and innovated on Matas Live before video commerce was a thing globally, and that meant that you had to come up with all of the ideas and how to structure workflows and develop content and integrate across touch points yourself. There were no best cases on how to do this. What does your innovation process look like, and how do you keep having good ideas of different ways that you can use video commerce?
Well, we have this team of hosts that are very creative, and sometimes you have to say, okay, no more good ideas for now. So we have a lot of good ideas, but I think it's very important to structure them in different kind of formats. For instance, we have now a format called Get Ready With, because we know that is trending. So we put different kind of trending products as well down to this format. So we try to, generate new ideas, but we also try to kind of like make formats out of it. So it's not like going in every single direction, because we have a lot of great ideas.
So a strong content team, but what about all the ideas behind actually integrating Matas Live across touch points? So you have a navigation, it shows up when you are using the search function on the website. How do you innovate on those types of features? Because that is sort of the framework around Matas Live and its success and how it sits across your brand.
Yeah. I think that's what we spoke about before as well, you know, this very strong, you know, like way of working together across different teams. So we actually develop with the different teams. So with e-commerce, we speak about, okay, what's relevant to develop on when it comes to the Matas Live site or page on the website. And with the SoMe team, which we're also a part of now, we speak about, okay, which kind of formats will work on SoMe. So what we basically do is that we always make sure to kind of, you know, like make the content on the channel's premises. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes complete sense. All right, and then you make sure to include the rest of the org in your project development process. Okay, that's very, very interesting. How big of a role does the customer play in all of this? How do you gather their feedback for future episodes or features, for example?
We don't have like a system for it just yet, but obviously it's our community. So we'll have also like this kind of community manager sitting in the chat every single Monday and Thursday evening when we're live, and they'll make sure to collect these different kind of inputs that we'll get. And we often hear, okay, we want to see more makeup, we want to see more skincare, and it's very difficult sometimes because we have a lot of things planned. But obviously we will think about, okay, what is the feedback in general and how can we just make sure to incorporate it. But I think when we are looking into data, we will actually kind of, you know, like meet their needs beforehand. Yeah.
So you anticipate their needs, and
exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I think sometimes you know the customers better than they know themselves.
Yeah, so too.
And finally, I would love to just shift our focus a little bit to the future of beauty and health retail in general. If I can ask you, what major shifts or trends do you predict that we will see in the coming years?
I think just in general that video is just a big thing, and I think that we'll see video in different kind of formats, maybe the, you know, very short format, maybe 3 seconds with swatches on a PDP. I think that we'll see that companies will build, you know, almost websites on their PDP, just like an entire universe around different products. And I think that video will play a big role in that, and I think that we'll see also maybe podcast and so on, but maybe also the mixture between podcast and video and the way of bite-sizing video to fit into different channels as well. I think that's going to be a big thing.
All right, very interesting. Thank you so much, Michelle, for
you.
guesting the forecast today. I could hear you talk about this for hours and hours because so many things are happening here at Matas all the time, and I know that our audience will absolutely love this one. I can't wait to see how Matas Live will push the envelope even further in the future. And again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for watching the forecast today. We drop new episodes regularly, and if you want to stay in the loop, make sure to connect with us on Instagram or LinkedIn. You can also subscribe to our newsletter or, of course, subscribe to the podcast in your podcast platform of choice. We have a lot of great content coming up, but if you have any wishes for upcoming episodes on topics, guests, whatever, please don't hesitate to reach out. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Thank you for watching today, and see you soon.